Thank you, Speaker.
Alban Maginness.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could I say, Mr. Speaker, that I'm slightly confused. Yesterday, and indeed part of today, some members of this Assembly wanted to turn this Assembly into the Supreme Soviet, which would rubber stamp a draft budget. Now, the reality is this, that this chamber is a parliamentary chamber for debate, and the duty of all members is to scrutinise and to criticise where necessary. We are going to do that, and our colleagues in other parties are going to do that. But to, as it were, characterise those as being against the executive or against the spirit of the executive is completely and utterly wrong. It is our duty to criticise. And other members who are outside the executive, specifically the Alliance Party, should not be criticised for criticising a draft budget. They too have a role to play, and they too have acted honourably in criticising a draft budget. Yes, I will, yes.
Would the member agree that if a government is confident about its programme, that it should actually welcome the scrutiny of those who are in opposition?
Indeed, and I thought, in fact, the First Minister yesterday, in fact, invited criticism, unlike some of the backbenchers that we've heard from the DUP and indeed from Sinn Féin. We've heard from the Chief Whip of Sinn Féin, indeed, who says there's not enough money for everyone and that we shouldn't use emotional blackmail. Well, I represent North Belfast, and I have no hesitation, Mr. Speaker, in criticising this budget for falling short of the target of meeting social housing over the next 5 years, a target of 2,000 social houses. That will not be reached on the allocation which, in fact, the Minister for Finance has given in this draft budget. The reality is this, that the Minister for Finance has said to the Minister for Social Development, go and sell land, get private means to finance housing. And we have heard William McRae. What was he doing a few minutes ago? He was criticising the Minister for Agriculture because the Minister for Agriculture was selling land. And he pointed out the dangers of doing that. The reality is this. The reality of this, Mr. Speaker, is that there are dangers in selling assets in order to provide much-needed capital for housing development here in Northern Ireland, which everybody in this House agrees is absolutely and utterly necessary. And we know from Building a Better Future, the draft investment strategy, that says that it is one of the top priorities. One of the top priorities of the executive. How can you build houses without money? That's the reality of the situation. Do you go out and sell land? If you go out and sell land, all your land now, how much money are you going to raise? How long is that going to take place? That is, if it is a solution at all, Mr. Speaker, and I doubt if it actually is a solution, that certainly is a long-term solution. It's not a short-term solution. And the 2,300 people who are on the waiting list in North Belfast, and Carol McKillen should note this, 2,300 people in North Belfast, is she saying to them, don't worry, we're going to sell land, and 5, maybe 10 years' time, we'll satisfy the homelessness problem in North Belfast. That, Mr. Speaker, is ridiculous, and that is what people like Fra McCann are suggesting to this House today. Fra McCann suggests that the Minister is blaming everybody. He criticises the Minister. He criticised her severely on all areas of her brief. He criticised her, he continued to criticise her, yet what does Fra McCann do? He backs the budget which prevents the Minister bringing about housing allocations which in fact will meet the homeless need here in Northern Ireland. He rejects or he supports the budget. He supports the budget that will prevent people solving fuel poverty here in Northern Ireland. That's the reality of the situation. That is the right-wing agenda which the Minister for Finance is putting forward to members of Sinn Féin and to other members in this House. And I think there is a duty on this House to reject that right-wing Thatcherite agenda. if the minister, and I'm surprised that members of Sinn Féin do not recognise that this is a Thatcherite approach in relation to social development. If they don't realise that, then they must be utterly politically illiterate and blind. The reality is this. We have been told by one of the members of Sinn Féin that the minister should go to the housing associations and ask them for their assets. How can she do that? How can she go along to a private body and say, by the way, you've got so much money there, we'll take it in order to use this for the government's policy in relation to housing? That, in fact, Mr. Speaker, is an impossible thing to ask the minister to do. Of course, the Minister for Social Development has a duty, and the Department of Social Development has a duty to make efficiencies. And indeed, if you look at the programme for government, or if you look at the draft budget, the Department of Social Development will in fact make efficiency savings of £113 million over the next 4 years. That is an important contribution. There is a duty on all departments to look at efficiencies and for those efficiencies to be used in order to make funds available for other departments and for the government. No, I won't, because I've only a few minutes left. The Minister of Finance has suggested that there are additional sources of private finance. I would love to know where those additional sources are, and are those additional sources readily available? The DSD, in its capital bids for housing and urban regeneration, requested £992 million and £373 million over the first 3 years of the investment strategy. The draft allocations made were short by £775 million and £139 million, respectively, in terms of urban regeneration. The reality is this, Mr. Speaker, that the budget allocations are completely inadequate. The Minister has said that to the committee, and I would like the House to note that at the committee there was all-party support for the Minister in her quest in order to get sufficient allocations for housing and for urban regeneration and for fuel poverty in her budget. And nobody dissented from that. And I am surprised that some members of that committee here today, Mr. Speaker, are in fact now retrospectively attacking the Minister in relation to that. The reality, Mr. Speaker, is this, that the allocations are completely inadequate, and they cannot, at this moment in time, meet the 10,000 new homes over the next 5 years. That, Mr. Speaker, is unrealistic if the present allocations made by the Minister for Finance stay. I hope the Minister for Finance does in fact listen to the comments made in this House today, and that the Minister for Finance will in fact amend the allocations so made, so that we can in fact provide people in Northern Ireland with a decent home, and that we can eliminate at last fuel poverty here in Northern Ireland. That is the duty of this executive. And I note that the First Minister is here. And one of the first memories of the First Minister that I have was fighting the Ban by-election, which he won. And he dedicated himself in that election, in that by-election, to improving the living standards of ordinary people, and to eliminate poverty, and to eliminate the worst housing conditions that he had witnessed in the country. I hope that the First Minister remembers that, and remembers the fact that there is a duty incumbent upon him and the executive to fulfil those